we're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Monday, August 24th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Ki-hoon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming in. Also, Niles with us today.
Happy Monday.
Both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So it's the start of a new work week, and we're kicking things off with a look at something that's changing the way families look today. For generations, it was pretty common to grow up surrounded by brothers and sisters, and having siblings was almost taken for granted. But these days, more and more children are growing up as only children as family sizes continue to shrink. Actually, I'm also an only child, and I remember thinking back in the day it was pretty unusual when I was younger. But these days, it seems like being an only child is becoming much more common. So, Kyun, starting with you, so what about you? Like, do you have brothers and sisters, and what's your relationship like if you do have brothers and sisters?
Luckily, I have one older brother, and I think I have a very special and a somewhat unique relationship with him. We grew up in Australia and came back to live in Korea. I actually came back first, and for those couple of years being apart in different countries, we didn't really keep in touch, and I think that was probably the only time we were not in good terms. But that was about it, and once he came back to Korea, we actually became even closer for some reason. Even people around me became so surprised at how close we were because it's not really common to see many Korean brothers get along as well as we do, keep in contact. What we do is like I always talk to him about like the most like little things in life and like big things in life as well. We share a lot of things. We drink together. We even go shopping together. And we even play golf together. And it's something that I do on a regular basis with my brother. And to be honest, I don't know what my life would have been like without a sibling. So I'm very privileged. And I always thank my parents for actually giving me an older brother, not a younger brother.
You also like talk to him on the phone?
I do.
Wow.
I text him every day. I talk to him. Not every day on the phone, but when I need to ask him something urgent, I'll call him immediately.
So you're always in contact with him, basically.
Yeah,
you reach out to
always
him.
in touch.
Oh, that's amazing. So what about you, Nana?
So I also do have a brother, and he's a younger brother, 4 years apart. And according to other people, we're very close, but it's a national rule that you're not supposed to say you're close. It's a cultural thing, but I do see him fairly regularly, once a week, and he loves my son. He's his only nephew, and gets along with my husband very well, to a point that when I'm with my in-laws, my brother would just come and hang out with them as well. He feels very comfortable there. And now he has a fiance, and he's getting ready to get married, and I like her more than him, so we constantly hang out. And I honestly think it's kind of nice to have that one extra person in your family other than your parents.
I think it looks like your family is also growing, so that's just amazing.
It is, yeah.
Wow. So, and while sibling relationships can evolve as we grow older, fewer Koreans are actually growing up with siblings in the first place. So we're going to talk more about this, but first, let's take a look at the screen. South Korea has long struggled with one of the world's lowest birth rates. And while the numbers are showing a slow but steady uptick, many couples are still hesitant to have a second or even a third child. As a result, only child families are becoming increasingly common, a family structure that was far less typical in the past. So today on News Generation, we're taking a closer look at why parents hesitate to have a second child, what policies could encourage second births, and what working mothers need to make having another child a more realistic choice. Just as we saw in a video, South Korea may be seeing some encouraging signs in its birth rate, but having a second child still feels like a major decision for many parents. And that raises an interesting question. Are Koreans actually becoming more open to having children again, or are only child families becoming the norm? So how common is it for Korean families to have only one child these days, Kim?
Since the 2000s, South Korea's birth rate has fallen sharply, leading to a growing number of only children. However, on a slightly positive note, the trend has recently begun to reverse. In the first quarter of this year, South Korea's total fertility rate rose to 0.95 children per woman, up 15% from the same period last year. Now, this is well below the OECD average of 1.51, but what's encouraging is that the figure has been steadily improving over the past 3 years. Consequently, there's also seems to be a shift in how Koreans actually view having children. So if you take a look at the screen, according to a survey conducted by the Presidential Committee on Aging Society and Population Policy in South Korea, conducted last November, 70% of respondents said they believe having children is desirable. Now, when asked about their ideal number of children, 59% chose 2, making it by far the most popular answer. Another 12% said they would like 3 or more children. And taken together, that means 71% of respondents said they would ideally prefer to have more than 1 child. So it's very clear the sentiment toward having more than 1 child has shifted a lot over the past years. But again, the concept of idealistic, like being idealistic, is different from the true reality, which we'll discuss later, more later on.
So the numbers are moving in a positive direction, but that doesn't necessarily mean families are actually getting bigger. In fact, the gap between wanting children and actually having them can unfortunately be quite significant. So then why are we seeing this trend of them stopping and having just 1 child here in Korea?
It's actually not this generation only, but we do have to look at it in the past few decades of how we transitioned, because many of us millennials and Gen Z have parents who have many siblings. 4 or 5 was not uncommon, and even up to 8 or 10, just like in my parents' case. And to control that population growth, the Korean government promoted slogans such as "have just 2 children, but raise them well," the quality of just raising 2 children, and one well-raised daughter is worth 10 sons. And so as a result, many of the people in the millennial and Gen Z generation typically have 1 sibling, so 2 kids in 1 family. Today, however, we are seeing that only child is becoming a new norm. And even among people who would ideally like a second child, as Sujin mentioned, many stop after having 1. According to a survey, 45% said that they plan to have 1 child. Only 27% plan to have 2 children, and it keeps going down to 25%, and they said they would not have any children, and less than 3% was 3 children or more children. So it seems the reality is no matter how much you would like to, we are actually going down in the number of children.
So that is a big shift from previous generations when having several siblings was much more common. And behind the shift are a number of very real considerations. So you actually have a kid. So what do you think makes having a second child such a difficult decision for so many people?
Well, I think as a woman, because you do go through the pregnancy all the way to the birth and having to raise a child, you know what it's like actually. Before the first child, you don't really have a realistic grasp on what it's like. You know vaguely that it's going to be difficult, but then you start to wonder after the first child, could I actually handle another child going through the physical energy of the pregnancy and the birth and the newborn stage? And of course, we do have to talk about the career concerns. Yes, there are maternity leaves now, but many freelancers, including myself, there's no full guarantee that we can come back to our jobs. So some women worry that if I have another baby, can I actually make a return the second time? I somehow luckily made it back, but can I do it another time? And so it's just going through that process all over again, and especially if you do not have any help from family members like your parents or any other relatives living nearby, even just having 1 child and raising them is actually demanding.
And these concerns can look very daunting and also different depending on where you are in life, what kind of support system you have. So for working mothers, I know there's a lot of working mothers here in Arirang as well. What do you think would make having a second child more possible or more realistic?
It's a very good question, and from a future like husband or maybe perhaps like a father's perspective, I think it's good to say that it is all on the wife, because fathers, as they're very much involved in childcare these days compared to the past, but because women have the final say and they go through pregnancy, the childbirth, so I think it's not fair for a husband to insist that they should have a second child. So from the husband's perspective, I think respecting how his wife feels about having a second child really should come first. Now, looking at couples around me who have had a second child, most say the early years are very tough for both parents. And if one of them has to take time off work, that can also put extra pressure on the family financially. Now, raising two children often means needing a bigger home, which can push up housing costs, while childcare and education expenses also increase, which we cannot ignore. And that said, many parents who have raised two children say that once they actually get through those difficult early years, they are ultimately very glad they made that choice, especially for the first child, because having a sibling is very different to not having one, and their personality and characteristics also change accordingly. So I think the more the merrier, only if you can afford to.
Right. So it's not simply a question of whether people actually want another child. It's whether they can realistically manage having another child. And that's reflected in what our viewers told us as well. So we wanted to hear what they thought. So we ran a poll on the Editing News YouTube channel asking if you're hesitant to have a second child. Why is that the case? So here's what the results showed. So financial difficulties came out on top at 53%, followed by the physical demands of pregnancy and childcare at 28%. Career interruption accounted for 10%, while 9% cited other reasons. So financial concerns came out on top by quite a wide margin, with more than half of respondents pointing to the cost of raising another child. And that suggests for many people, the decision may be less about whether they actually want a second child, more about whether they can feel they can even afford one. So what kind of support could actually make a difference for parents considering a second child? So to explore that question further and more, we're going to hear from an elementary school teacher who is currently on parental leave and is raising two young children. And that conversation is coming up right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out Channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
We're joined now by Soyeon, an elementary school teacher and mother of two, a 33-month-old son and an 8-month-old daughter, who is currently on parental leave with her husband. So hello, Soyeon. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hello.
Hi, good to see you. So Soyeon, what made you decide to have a second child, and how different is life with two children instead of just one?
My husband and I have sisters and brothers. Our first child is a boy, and we wanted to make brother or sister to our son. When I was young, I didn't like having sister and brother because I wanted to be an only child. But as I get older, I discuss my problems with them, and they are now my best friends. I think brothers and sisters are the most valuable assets parents can give. The other reason is we wanted to see another baby growing up. Time flies, and baby boy grew up so fast. Every day, my husband and I looked up pictures of our son when he was a baby. We have second baby, and now we spend every day preciously because we know baby grows very fast, and this baby will never come back. Life with two children is very different with life with one child. First of all, parents cannot rest. When we have one child, mom can rest when dad takes care of son, and dad can rest when mom did. But with two children, mom and dad have to take care of one child each all the time. Life with two children is happier. Life with one child is also happy, but we have two happinesses, and they make synergy when they are together. I can say we laugh more after having second baby.
Wow, it's great to hear your story. It is a happy trade-off having two kids. Now, why did you and your husband decide to go on parental leave, and what other kinds of support would make having a second child much easier for parents?
Both parents going on a parental leave was not easy to decide. Parental benefits are provided for 2 years from the government and for 1 year from the company. Without those financial supports, we couldn't decide to use parental leave. And we thought from birth to 3 years is the most important period for baby's emotional development. So we thought spending time with both parents can be a good emotional support for our children. That's why we use parental leave together.
Wow, thank you.
Recently, there are many good supports for families with baby. Sending people to help housework, take care of children are also good supports. But I think all parents want to spend time and take care of their children by themselves. Still, lots of people cannot use their parental leave easily. Supports that can make parents using their parental leave easier is still needed.
All right. Well, it seems that even though it is difficult, being able to take parental leave for both you and your husband is actually something great that you can do. So, amidst that, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges and even the most rewarding parts of having two children?
Every day I encounter the biggest challenge. That's when two children cries at the same time and they all want me. Hugging two children is not easy. And planning family financial part is another big challenge. For raising two children, we spend more money than family with one child, and we will need more and more money as they grow up. About most rewarding part, it is not easy to say in words. I think that's because it's emotional part. I can say life with two children is 10 times harder, but 100 times happier.
I think that's such a beautiful way to put it. And then I have to say, we saw photos of your children and they're both incredibly cute. So I can see how rewarding that would also be as well. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just talked to a mother of two who is currently on parental leave about what led her to have a second child, how life has changed with two children, and the challenges and rewards that come with raising them. So her experience also highlights an important question. What kind of support can actually make having a second child feel more manageable for parents? For her, she's on parental leave, that has helped her a lot. So what other policies could actually encourage parents to have a second child, Kyun?
Well, one of cash payments don't seem to have much of an impact than it actually initially would have. Coming from parents who actually use these cash payments. So what parents tend to appreciate more are policies that provide ongoing support even after the newborn stage, such as after-school childcare programs and subsidized childcare helpers. So these kinds of services can be especially important when parents are considering a second child. Parents who actually had a positive experience with support programs while raising their first child are reportedly more likely to feel comfortable having another or even a third child. And in many cases, the more children a family has, the more benefits and support they can actually receive. And one particularly popular service is the baby and children's goods rental programs run by local governments. Now, depending on the children's age, families can actually borrow books, toys and educational materials, and even other childcare items for extended periods of time. The fees are usually very low or sometimes almost nothing at all. So for parents raising young children, it is definitely worth checking what programs and rental services are available through their local government.
So it seems that what parents need may go beyond one-time financial incentives, and ongoing support with childcare and child rearing could make a much bigger difference, especially after the newborn stage. But for working mothers, financial or childcare support is only part of the equation. Being able to stay in the workforce while raising children is another major consideration. So as a working mom of one, what do they need to feel ready to have another child?
You know, it's interesting that I'm on the segment today because I am considering having a second child or not, and it really is a balance game between the two. You know, the policies that Kyun did mention, the rental places for toys and other kid kid things, it's really great. I'm also benefiting from it. The cash handoffs are also very helpful to us. But I think eventually it's about child care and being there for the children. And yes, we do have paternity leave and child care support, but we do need to look into if it's actually effective in practice, how many people are taking it and how easily they take it versus how difficult it is, how many things they have to do to get there. And also in some densely populated areas, which is where we are, Seoul, Greater Seoul area, Gyeonggi area, families register for children's child care, like daycare centers at birth. And sometimes you still have to wait up to a year. And longest I've heard is a year and a half. So it makes it quite difficult for parents to go back to the workforce. So there does need to be a development of perception that raising the first child was, hey, that was difficult, but also doable, and it won't destroy us to have a second one. And if raising that first child becomes a very positive experience, like it was in the case of Soyoung that we heard from today, it does seem like more people will want to have more children. And I just want to highlight once again the childcare aspect of it. If you do not have help from parents or any family relatives nearby, as Kyun mentioned, there are subsidy programs and childcare that is supported, but it's kind of difficult for a parent to fully trust another person and not have that be a consistent one person taking care of my child, because children also bond with adults as well. So having something perhaps stronger that can last a little longer it sounds like something very ideal for me to have a second child.
Right. So having a second child is a deeply personal decision, but the challenges parents face are often shared by many families. So from financial support and childcare to parental leave and career security, creating the right environment can make that decision a little easier. And perhaps the goal isn't simply to encourage more births, but to make raising the children people want feel more manageable. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 in Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Ki-hoon.
It's always a pleasure.
And also Niall.
No problem.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. And hopefully having a second child feels like a choice and not a challenge. We are
News Generation.